Picture this. The year is 1751. You are standing in Leicester House, London. In front of you, the Prince of Wales, heir to the British throne, is trying to speak. His voice comes out as a strained whisper. His throat is swelling so rapidly you can see it happening. 3 of the best physicians in England surround him. They do not know what they are looking at. In 72 hours, they will watch him suffocate to death. Slowly, consciously, unable to breathe. This is not poison. This is not assassination. This is something far worse. A bacteria so lethal it killed kings and commoners alike, so horrifying that doctors called it the strangling angel of children, and for 2,000 years no one knew how to stop it. Let me show you what happened to Prince Frederick when this bacteria found him, and why what doctors did to try to save him made everything worse. Before we go deeper into the medical nightmare that killed a prince in plain view of the best physicians in England, I need you to understand something. This is not speculation. This is documented in royal medical records, physician case notes, and autopsy reports that still exist in British archives. If you believe that the documented medical horrors that terrorized our ancestors must be remembered, consider liking this video and subscribing. Your support helps unearth more accounts from the darkest corners of medical history. Let me take you back to who Prince Frederick was before the bacteria found him. Born in 1707, Frederick Lewis was the eldest son of King George II. He was Prince of Wales, first in line to the British throne. He had survived 44 years in an era when royal children died routinely from disease, poor sanitation, and medical incompetence. He was considered healthy, active, energetic. He played cricket. He rode horses. He attended theater. He was a patron of the arts. He had 9 children with his wife, Princess Augusta. His eldest son, George, the future King George III, was 13 years old in 1751. Frederick was not weak, not sickly, not predisposed to illness. He was a robust middle-aged man in the prime of his life. Here's what makes his death so terrifying. The bacteria did not care. March 14, 1751. Evening. Frederick attends a performance at the Theatre Royal in London. He seems fine, energetic, laughing with friends. He shows no signs of illness. March 15th. Morning 15th. Frederick wakes with a sore throat. Mild. The kind everyone gets occasionally. He mentions it to his personal physician, Dr. George Lee. Neither man is concerned. Sore throats are common. Usually they resolve in days. Dr. Lee examines Frederick's throat. He sees slight redness, nothing alarming. He prescribes rest, warm liquids, and a gargle solution. Standard treatment for minor throat ailments. Frederick follows this advice. He spends the day resting. He expects to feel better by morning. March 16th. Morning. Frederick's throat is worse. Significantly worse. The pain has intensified. His voice is hoarse. He has difficulty swallowing. Dr. Lee examines him again. This time he sees something concerning. White patches, small spots of grayish-white membrane forming on Frederick's throat and tonsils. In 1751, doctors did not know what these patches meant. They had seen them before, always in cases that ended badly, but they did not understand the pathology. We know now what Dr. Lee was looking at. Pseudomembrane. The signature of Corynebacterium diphtheria. The bacteria that causes diphtheria. The white membrane is not pus. It is dead tissue. The bacteria produces a toxin so powerful it kills throat tissue on contact. The dead tissue forms a thick, leather-like membrane that adheres to the throat. Dr. Lee does not know this. He thinks it is a severe throat infection. He prescribes bloodletting, removing blood to balance the humors, and stronger gargle solutions. Both treatments are useless. Bloodletting weakens Frederick's immune response. Gargling cannot remove the membrane that is forming deeper in his throat. March 17th. Morning. Frederick can barely speak. His voice is a harsh whisper. The white membrane has spread. It covers his tonsils, the back of his throat, and is moving toward his larynx and trachea. He is having difficulty breathing. Not severe yet, but noticeable. He has to pause between sentences to catch his breath. Dr. Lee is now alarmed. He calls for consultation with two other prominent physicians, Dr. Samuel Sharp and Dr. William Bromfield. Both are experienced. Both have treated aristocracy and royalty. Both have excellent reputations. All three examine Frederick. They see the spreading membrane. They hear the labored breathing. They recognize the pattern. They have seen this before. They know how it ends. In 1751, diphtheria was one of the most feared diseases in Europe. It killed approximately 50% of infected children. Adults had slightly better survival rates, around 30% mortality, but still faced horrifying odds. The disease had several names: the strangling angel, the throat disease, malignant quinsy. All these names reflected the same horror. People suffocated to death as the membrane closed their airway. Physicians did not know what caused it. They did not know how it spread. They did not know how to treat it. They just watched people die. Think about what that means. You are a prince. You have access to the best medical care in the world. 3 brilliant physicians are treating you, and all they can do is watch. March 17th. Evening. Frederick's breathing is noticeably labored. The membrane is thickening. It is partially blocking his airway. Each breath requires effort. He is conscious, alert, terrified. His wife, Princess Augusta, sits with him. Their 9 children are kept away. No one wants them to see their father like this, but everyone in the household knows what is happening. The prince is suffocating in his own palace, surrounded by doctors who cannot help him. The physicians try everything in their available arsenal. Here is what they did to Frederick over the next 4 days, and why every intervention made things worse. Treatment 1. Bloodletting. Theory: disease is caused by an imbalance of bodily humors. Removing blood will restore balance. Reality: bloodletting weakens the immune system. Frederick's body is fighting a bacterial infection that is producing deadly toxins. He needs all his strength. The doctors are systematically weakening him. They remove approximately 1 pint of blood. Frederick becomes pale, dizzy, and weaker. Treatment 2. Emetics and purgatives. Theory: disease is caused by bad humors in the body. Inducing vomiting and diarrhea will expel the corrupted matter. Reality: Frederick is already struggling to eat and drink because of throat pain and swelling. Making him vomit and purge causes severe dehydration. His body desperately needs fluids and nutrition. The treatment is starving him. Frederick spends hours vomiting and suffering diarrhea. He becomes severely dehydrated. His breathing gets worse. Treatment 3. Topical applications. Theory: applying caustic substances to the throat will burn away the diseased tissue. Reality: the membrane is not a superficial infection. It is adhered to throat tissue. Applying acids and caustic solutions causes extreme pain without removing the membrane. In some cases, it damages healthy tissue and makes the membrane grow thicker as more tissue dies. Frederick endures applications of substances including vinegar, mercury compounds, and heated oils. He screams in pain. The membrane continues spreading. Treatment 4. Attempted mechanical removal. This is where it gets truly horrifying. Dr. Sharp suggests trying to scrape away the membrane manually. He uses a surgical instrument, essentially a metal probe, with a curved end. He attempts to physically remove the white membrane from Frederick's throat. Here's why this does not work. The pseudomembrane is adhered to living tissue. It is not sitting on top of the throat. It is integrated with it. When you try to scrape it off, it tears away pieces of throat lining. This causes bleeding, and the exposed raw tissue allows more bacterial toxin to enter the bloodstream. Frederick bleeds. He gags. He nearly chokes on blood and torn membrane pieces. The doctors stop the procedure because they realize They are making it worse. The membrane grows back thicker within hours. March 19th, morning. Frederick is in severe respiratory distress. The membrane now extends into his larynx and upper trachea. His airway is approximately 60% blocked. He is breathing in short, rapid, labored gasps. Each breath makes a harsh, high-pitched sound called stridor, the sound of air being forced through a narrowed passage. He can no longer speak at all. His voice is gone. He is exhausted from the effort of breathing. Every muscle in his chest and neck is straining. He has not slept in 30 hours because lying down makes breathing even harder. He sits propped up with pillows, fighting for air. The physicians hold another consultation. They are watching a prince die. They need to do something. Dr. Bromfield suggests a radical procedure or tracheotomy. This is the technique of cutting open the trachea below the obstruction and inserting a tube to allow breathing. In 1751, this is extremely dangerous. There is no anesthesia, no antibiotics, no understanding of sterile technique. Survival rates for emergency tracheotomy are approximately 20%, but Frederick is suffocating. If they do nothing, he dies. If they try the procedure, he has a small chance. They explain the procedure to Frederick. He cannot speak to respond. He nods yes. Think about that moment. You are a 44-year-old prince. You cannot breathe. 3 doctors are telling you they want to cut your throat open while you are conscious. You know you are dying, so you nod yes. March 19th, afternoon. They attempt the tracheotomy. Frederick is held down by his servants. There is no anesthesia. Laudanum might be given for pain, but it would also suppress breathing, which Frederick cannot afford. Dr. Bromfield makes an incision in Frederick's throat, below the larynx, attempting to access the trachea. In theory, he will cut through skin, fascia, and muscle, then carefully open the trachea and insert a tube. Here is what actually happens. Frederick is struggling. He is conscious. He is in extreme pain. He is trying to breathe through an increasingly blocked airway while someone cuts his throat. Dr. Bromfield hits a blood vessel. Blood floods the surgical field. He cannot see clearly. He is trying to find the trachea by feel while Frederick is moving and bleeding and suffocating. He manages to open the trachea. Air rushes in. For a moment, Frederick can breathe. His color improves slightly. Then blood and membrane fragments get into the surgical opening. Frederick begins choking. He is coughing up blood and pieces of membrane. Some of this material goes into his lungs. The tube they try to insert does not stay in place properly. Frederick's throat is swollen and anatomically distorted by the infection. The tube keeps shifting. Sometimes it allows air through, sometimes it does not. Dr. Bromfield tries to reposition it. More bleeding, more choking. Frederick is drowning in his own blood while simultaneously suffocating from the membrane blockage. After 45 minutes of this nightmare, they get the tube relatively stable. Frederick can breathe. Barely. It is not comfortable. It is not adequate. But he is getting some air. He survives the night. Barely. March 20th morning. Frederick is alive. But he is in catastrophic condition. He has a tracheotomy tube in his throat that is partially blocked by blood clots. He has severe infection, not just the diphtheria, but now also bacterial contamination from the surgery performed without sterile technique. He is dehydrated, starved, weakened from bloodletting, and exhausted from 5 days of struggling to breathe. His pulse is rapid and weak. His skin is gray. He has a high fever. The diphtheria toxin is causing systemic effects throughout his body. The physicians know he is not going to survive. They have done everything they can. It is not enough. What they do not understand is the mechanism of diphtheria. The bacteria produces a toxin that does more than block airways. It damages heart tissue. It paralyzes muscles. It shuts down organs. Even if they had successfully maintained his airway, Frederick was dying from toxin effects throughout his body. But in 1751, they did not know this. They thought they could just keep him breathing, he might recover. March 20th, evening. Frederick's heart begins to fail. The diphtheria toxin has damaged his cardiac tissue. His heart rhythm becomes irregular. His pulse is weak and fast. He is still conscious. He cannot speak because of the tracheotomy tube. He cannot breathe normally because of the membrane. He cannot move much because he is too weak. He is lying in bed, surrounded by physicians and his wife, dying in slow motion. At 10:47 p.m., his heart stops. He has been fighting for 11 days. The bacteria won. Prince Frederick Lewis, age 44, heir to the British throne, killed by bacteria that entered through his throat and suffocated him despite the best medical care available in 18th century Europe. The autopsy revealed extensive pseudomembrane throughout his throat, larynx, and upper trachea. There was evidence of cardiac damage consistent with diphtheria toxin. Pulmonary complications resulted from aspiration of blood and membrane fragments during the tracheotomy. The official cause of death was listed as throat distemper, but everyone knew what it really was. The strangling angel had killed another victim. Here is what makes this story especially tragic. Frederick's death changed British history. His eldest son George became heir to the throne instead. George was 13 years old. He would eventually become King George III, the king who lost the American colonies and suffered from mental illness later in life. Historians have spent centuries analyzing how different British history might have been if Frederick had lived to become king instead. We will never know, because a bacterium smaller than a human cell killed him first. But here is what should truly disturb you. Frederick was not unique. Diphtheria killed thousands of people every year in 18th century Europe. Nobles, commoners, adults, children. No one was safe. Children died more frequently. Their airways are smaller, less space before the membrane completely blocks breathing. Parents would watch their children suffocate over days. There was nothing anyone could do. The disease terrorized communities. When diphtheria arrived in a village, it might kill 30 of children under age 10. Families would lose multiple children in weeks. And the psychological horror was worse than the physical, because victims remained conscious almost until the end. They knew they were suffocating. They could feel their throat closing. They fought for every breath as their airway narrowed. Doctors could not help. They tried everything: bloodletting, purgatives, caustic applications, mercury treatments, surgical interventions. Nothing worked. Some doctors tried even more extreme measures. I have found medical case reports from the 18th century describing attempts to push tubes through the membrane into the trachea while patients were conscious. They used heated metal probes to burn away diseased tissue, often causing severe burns and making obstruction worse. They administered massive doses of mercury compounds, which caused mercury poisoning on top of the diphtheria. They performed serial bloodlettings, removing blood daily until patients were nearly exsanguinated. All of these treatments failed. All of them added suffering to dying patients. But doctors kept trying, because watching someone suffocate without attempting intervention was psychologically impossible. Think about being a physician in 1751. You have studied for years. You are respected. You are skilled. And you watch a prince die in front of you over 11 days while everything you try makes him suffer more. Dr. Lee, Dr. Sharp, and Dr. Bromfield were all experienced, competent physicians by 18th century standards. They did everything medical science of the time allowed. Frederick died anyway. The bacteria did not care about medical degrees, about royal status, about desperate attempts to intervene. Coryn bacteria is a simple organism. It is a rod-shaped bacterium. It is a rod-shaped bacterium. It has one evolutionary strategy: produce toxins that kill host tissue, use the dead tissue as food, and spread to new hosts when the current host coughs or breathes near others. This strategy worked perfectly for thousands of years. The bacteria killed millions of humans, generation after generation, until 1891. That is when a German scientist named Emil Adolf von Behring discovered antitoxin, He found that injecting horses with small amounts of diphtheria toxin caused the horses to produce antibodies. These antibodies could be harvested from horse blood and injected into human patients. The antibodies would neutralize the bacterial toxin. For the first time in human history, there was a treatment that actually worked. Von Behring tested his antitoxin on a child dying from diphtheria on Christmas night, 1891. The child survived. The strangling angel had finally been stopped. Von Behring received the first Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1901 for this discovery. He is estimated to have saved millions of lives. By 1920, diphtheria antitoxin was widely available. Mortality rates dropped from 50% to under 10%. In the 1940s, diphtheria vaccine was developed. The vaccine trains the human immune system to produce antibodies before infection occurs. Vaccinated people are essentially immune to diphtheria. By 1980, diphtheria had been nearly eliminated from developed countries through vaccination programs. Today, diphtheria kills fewer than 10,000 people annually worldwide, mostly in regions with poor vaccine access. In countries with high vaccination rates, it is essentially extincted. The bacteria that killed Prince Frederick in 1751 still exists, but vaccinated humans are invisible to it. Their immune systems destroy it before it can establish infection. Here's what this means. If Frederick had been born 200 years later, in 1907, instead of 1707, he would have been vaccinated as a child. The bacteria would have entered his throat, and his immune system would have destroyed it before he even noticed symptoms. He would have lived. He would have become king. British history would be different, all because of vaccine science that did not exist yet in 1751. Think about every person who died from diphtheria before 1891. Thousands of years of history. Millions of deaths. Children suffocating while their parents held them. Adults dying in front of families. Doctors watching helplessly. All because the bacteria produced a toxin, and human immune systems had not evolved a defense against it yet. We were vulnerable. The bacteria exploited that vulnerability. We died. For thousands of years we could not do anything except watch people suffocate. Then science gave us antitoxin, then vaccines. Now the bacteria cannot touch us. This is what medical progress looks like. Not smooth advancement, sudden breakthroughs after millennia of helpless suffering. Frederick died on the wrong side of that breakthrough by 140 years. If this exposed something about medical history you never learned in school, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are uncovering more accounts of the medical nightmares that killed our ancestors and the science that finally stopped them. Drop a comment with your thoughts. Did you know diphtheria killed a British prince? Let us remember this history. Here is what I want you to think about. We live in an era where diphtheria is essentially extinct in developed countries. Most people under age 40 have never even heard of it. It is a historical curiosity, a disease from the past. But 275 years ago, it was one of the most feared killers in Europe. It could strike anyone. It killed brutally. It left doctors helpless. The only reason we do not fear it anymore is vaccination. Not natural immunity, not improved hygiene, not better nutrition. Vaccination. The science that von Behring pioneered. The public health programs that ensured every child received vaccines. The collective decision by societies to protect vulnerable populations through immunization. That is what eliminated the strangling angel. And here's the uncomfortable truth. That same bacteria still exists. It still produces the same toxins. It is still just as lethal. The only thing that changed is us. We became immune, artificially, through medicine. If vaccination rates drop below critical thresholds, diphtheria will return. The bacteria does not care that we conquered it. It is waiting. It has always been waiting. In recent years, diphtheria outbreaks have occurred in regions where vaccination programs collapsed due to war, political instability, or declining vaccine acceptance. People died the same way Frederick died, suffocating over days as pseudomembrane closed their airways. The bacteria has not changed. It still works exactly the same way it did in 1751. The only thing protecting us is maintained immunity through vaccination programs. Think about that. We are one generation of declining vaccination away from bringing back the strangling angel. Frederick's death offers us a lesson if we are willing to learn it. Before medical science, even princes died from bacteria. Wealth did not matter. Status did not matter. The best doctors in the world could not help. Only scientific advancement, antibiotics, vaccines, changed the equation. That advancement is not permanent or self-sustaining. It requires active maintenance, vaccination programs, public health infrastructure, scientific research, education. Stop maintaining it, and we return to 1751, where princes suffocate in their palaces despite the best available care. Frederick died 11 days after noticing a sore throat. He had access to resources most people in 1751 could not imagine. It did not matter. The bacteria killed him anyway. We defeated that bacteria. Not through prayer, not through hope, through science. And we stay protected through continued application of that science, through vaccination, through public health, through maintenance of medical infrastructure. That is the lesson Frederick's death teaches us. Scientific advancement is what separates us from our ancestors who died from bacteria. Stop applying that science, and the bacteria comes back. It never left. We just became invisible to it through vaccination. Frederick's story is a memorial, not just to him, but to every person who died from preventable disease before medical science caught up. Millions of children who suffocated from diphtheria, millions who died from smallpox, polio, measles, whooping cough, tetanus, all diseases we now prevent routinely through vaccination. They died because the science did not exist yet. They had no choice. We have a choice. We can maintain immunity through vaccination, or we can forget the lessons of history and allow preventable diseases to return. Frederick did not get to choose. He lived in 1751. The vaccine would not be invented for another 190 years, but we live now, after the breakthrough, after the science, with the tools to prevent what killed him. His death reminds us why those tools matter, why vaccination programs matter, why medical infrastructure matters, why scientific research matters. Because without them, we return to watching people suffocate, helplessly, while bacteria slowly closes their airways, over days, consciously. The strangling angel is still there. We just taught our immune systems to fight back. Through vaccines, maintain that defense, and diphtheria stays in history books. Stop maintaining it, and it returns to kill again. That is the choice we make, not individually, collectively, through public health policy, through vaccination programs, through continued commitment to medical science. Frederick's death asks us a question. Do we remember? Do we understand what it took to defeat these bacteria? And are we willing to maintain the defenses that keep them defeated? Because the bacteria, remember, they are still here, still producing the same toxins, still waiting for vulnerable hosts. The only thing stopping them is maintained immunity, through vaccination, through collective choice to protect ourselves and each other. Frederick did not have that choice, we do. His death reminds us to make the right one. His name was Prince Frederick Lewis. He was 44 years old. He was heir to the British throne. He died from a bacteria that entered through his throat and suffocated him over 11 days. Despite the best medical care 1751 could provide, that bacteria still exists. We defeated it through vaccines. We stay protected by maintaining those vaccines. That is the lesson. Remember his death. Remember what killed him. Remember that we have the power to prevent it. Through science, through vaccination, through collective choice. The strangling angel killed Frederick. We made sure it would never kill us by defeating it with medicine. Now we just have to remember to stay protected. That is the story. That is the lesson. That is why Frederick's death matters 275 years later. Not just as history, as warning, as reminder, as memorial to everyone who died before we learned how to fight back. We learned, we fought back, we won. Now we just have to maintain the victory by remembering why we fought and what we were fighting against. The bacteria that killed a prince, that suffocated children, that terrorized communities for thousands of years, until science finally stopped it. Remember Frederick. Remember the strangling angel. Remember that vaccines are why we do not fear it anymore. That is the documented account of how a bacteria killed a British prince in 1751, and how science made sure it would never kill us. If we choose to use it, remember his name. Remember the lesson.